All right, welcome everybody. In this video, I want to talk about some basic workflows of programming in R, and we're working with a Google Colab notebook, which is running R right now. And there's a link to this notebook in the description of this video if you want to follow along and run the same exact code cells that we're looking at in this video. Okay, and so for more information, more details about some of the information we're talking about in this video, you can take a look at a nice open source textbook, which is called R for Data Science. And there's a link to this over here in this first text cell. And I just want to point out that when you click on some of these links in the Colab notebook, it gives you a redirect notice that might look kind of dire. I don't know. Don't worry. It just means it's redirecting you away from the Colab notebook, but it's going to open it up in a new tab. So you still have the Colab notebook open in one tab. Over here, it opened up this textbook in a second tab, and this kind of gets way more into the details of some of the workflow basics of working in R. Over here is a little bit more of overview of that discussion. Okay, so as we discussed, there are two code cells in these notebooks. We've got text code cells and we've got the R code cells. And so if we want to run the code cells, and when we're programming, there are oftentimes many different ways of doing the same exact operation. So when I'm describing things, sometimes I might talk about multiple ways of doing the same operation. Sometimes I might just present one way of doing the operation. In this case, if we want to run a code cell, you certainly, if you like using your keyboard or your mouse, you can hit the play button over here and run it that way. And notice that when I run a code cell and if it runs successfully, a couple of things happen. And I just want to point out that if this is the first time you opened up this notebook and you attempted to run this code cell, I've already opened up this notebook. You might get a warning that says like, hey, this notebook is not authored by Google, so this notebook is not living in Google Drive. This notebook is actually in GitHub. Do you want to run this code cell? You might just want to click the button that says run anyway. It's okay. And then this code cell will run. And when you run the code cell, if it runs successfully, you get a green check mark over here, and it says how long did it take for this to run. And in this case, it took 0 seconds for this code cell to run correctly. And what was calculated was the square root of 3 plus 4. And that gave us, approximately 2.64, et cetera, et cetera. And the output is displayed below. Great. Another way to run code cells, if you don't like using your mouse to move around the screen, some people like using keyboard shortcuts, is that you can use the shift and return or enter key to run code cells. And that's another way to do it if instead you like using your keyboard. Here's a second code cell, which is instructing R to calculate the square root of 3 minus Z. So I'm going to run this code cell and let's see what happens. When I tried to run this code cell, instead of getting a green check mark, I got a red exclamation point. And this is R's way of telling me what the heck was going on here. This is an error message. And the error message, it's saying that this object Z that I tried to input into this code cell is not found. This object Z has not been defined. So it's trying to figure out what Z is. Is Z a number? Is Z a vector? Is Z a matrix? Z is not defined. It doesn't compute, so it doesn't know how to compute the square root of this thing. So rather than giving me the output, it doesn't know what to do, and it's giving me an error message. I don't know. I will click this button and see what it says. So it's connected to AI over here, I imagine, and it's giving me some explanations about what it might need to do. Very interesting when you do things on the fly and you're recording videos. Very nice. Google Colab is improving. And over here, it's saying, okay, here's the issue. Z wasn't defined. Hey, maybe if you would have defined Z first, for example, if Z were equal to 0, then this operation would have worked. So great. Google Colab is actually developing some nice ways of decoding error messages for you. I would just caution you that it may not decode things correctly in some cases. And if I want to close this kind of side bar over here, I'm just going to click this X bar over here. Okay, so now that closed things out. So just keep in mind, sometimes when you run code cells, everything works great. You get a green check mark. Sometimes when you run code cells, it doesn't work great and you get a red exclamation point, and you're going to need to decode those errors.